The date was November 26, 1977, and television viewers across southern England were settling in for the evening news when something unprecedented occurred. At 5:12 p.m., during a routine news broadcast on southern television, the signal was hijacked. A voice, distorted yet eerily calm, began speaking directly to millions of viewers. The mysterious entity identified itself as a representative of the Ashtar Galactic Command and delivered a warning about humanity's future. But this incident was merely the most public manifestation of a phenomenon that had been quietly developing for decades. The Ashtar Sheran communications, as they came to be known, represented one of the most persistent and controversial claims of extraterrestrial contact in modern history. Unlike fleeting UFO sightings or abduction accounts, these communications suggested an ongoing, organized attempt by an alien civilization to establish contact with Earth's governments and people. The story begins much earlier, in the aftermath of World War II, when the world was grappling with the terrifying implications of nuclear weapons. It was during this period of uncertainty and fear that the first alleged communications from Ashtar Sheran began to surface. These early messages, received through radio transmissions and channeled communications, carried a consistent theme. Extraterrestrial beings were monitoring Earth's development and were particularly concerned about humanity's newfound ability to destroy itself through nuclear warfare. The figure of Ashtar Sheran was described by various contactees as a commander in a vast galactic federation, leading a fleet of spacecraft positioned around Earth to monitor and, if necessary, intervene in human affairs. Unlike the often aggressive alien encounters portrayed in popular culture, Ashtar Sheran's communications presented a benevolent but firm extraterrestrial presence, claiming to act as protectors and guides for humanity's spiritual and technological evolution. What made these communications particularly intriguing was their consistency across multiple independent sources. Different contactees, separated by geography and often unaware of each other's experiences, reported remarkably similar messages and descriptions of this alleged alien commander. The communications typically warned of nuclear dangers, promoted spiritual development, and hinted at humanity's potential inclusion in a broader galactic community, but only if certain conditions were met. Declassified Chapter 2, The Cold War Context. To understand the significance of the Ashtar Sheran phenomenon, one must consider the historical context in which these communications first emerged. The late 1940s and 1950s were a time of unprecedented global tension and technological advancement. The Cold War was intensifying, nuclear weapons were proliferating, and the space race was beginning to capture public imagination. Against this backdrop of uncertainty and fear, the idea of benevolent extraterrestrial intervention offered both hope and terror in equal measure. The first documented Ashtar communications appeared during a period when UFO sightings were reaching unprecedented levels. The 1947 Roswell incident, Kenneth Arnold's flying saucer sighting, and numerous other unexplained aerial phenomena had already primed the public consciousness for the possibility of extraterrestrial visitation. Government investigations like Project Blue Book were officially examining these reports while simultaneously attempting to maintain public calm and national security. Within this environment of secrecy and speculation, the Ashtar Sheran messages provided what many sought: apparent direct communication from the mysterious visitors. Unlike ambiguous sightings or physical encounters that could be dismissed or explained away, these communications offered detailed information about extraterrestrial intentions, capabilities, and concerns. The messages suggested that Earth was under observation by an advanced civilization that possessed both the technology and moral authority to intervene in human affairs if necessary. The nuclear context was particularly significant. As the United States and Soviet Union engaged in an increasingly dangerous arms race, the Ashtar communications claimed that these weapons posed a threat not just to Earth, but to the broader cosmic community. The messages suggested that nuclear explosions could affect other dimensions or star systems, making Earth's weapons program a matter of galactic concern rather than merely terrestrial politics. This cosmic perspective on earthly affairs resonated with many who felt powerless in the face of global tensions. The idea that humanity was not alone and that advanced beings were monitoring and potentially protecting Earth from its own destructive tendencies provided comfort to those fearful of nuclear annihilation. However, it also raised uncomfortable questions about human sovereignty and the right of extraterrestrial beings to intervene in Earth's affairs. Government agencies took notice of these communications, not necessarily because they believed in their extraterrestrial origin, but because of their potential impact on public opinion and national security. The possibility that hostile foreign powers might exploit UFO beliefs for propaganda purposes, or that widespread belief in alien intervention might undermine government authority, made the Ashtar phenomenon a matter of official concern. Declassified Chapter 3, The Contactees Emerge. The primary conduits for Ashtar Sheran's alleged communications were a group of individuals who became known as contactees. Unlike the more famous abductees, who claimed involuntary encounters with extraterrestrials, contactees described ongoing, voluntary communication with benevolent space beings. These individuals came from diverse backgrounds: housewives, mechanics, radio operators, and spiritual seekers, united only by their claims of receiving direct messages from the Ashtar Galactic Command. One of the most prominent early contactees was George Van Tassel, a former aircraft mechanic who claimed to receive regular communications from space beings at his property near Giant Rock in California's Mojave Desert. Van Tassel described elaborate meetings with extraterrestrial visitors, including detailed conversations with Ashtar Sheran about Earth's future and humanity's spiritual development. His accounts included specific technical information about advanced propulsion systems and warnings about nuclear weapons testing. Another significant figure was George King, a British taxi driver who founded the Ethereal Society based on his claimed communications with various space beings, including Ashtar Sheran. King's messages were particularly detailed, often including specific instructions for humanity's spiritual advancement and warnings about particular global crises. The Ethereal Society became one of the most organized groups built around extraterrestrial contact claims, developing elaborate ceremonies and practices based on these alleged communications. Radio operator Tuella, whose real name was Thelma Terrell, became another prominent voice in the Ashtar phenomenon. Her books and channeled messages provided extensive details about the Ashtar Galactic Command's structure, mission, and plans for Earth. Tuella's communications described a vast fleet of spacecraft positioned around Earth, staffed by highly evolved beings from various star systems united under Ashtar Sheran's command. These ships allegedly served as both monitoring stations and potential evacuation vessels should Earth face catastrophic destruction. What made these contactee accounts particularly compelling was their consistency and detail. Different individuals, often unaware of each other's work, described remarkably similar organizational structures, mission parameters, and even physical descriptions of Ashtar Sheran. The alleged commander was consistently described as a tall, luminous being with penetrating blue eyes, commanding presence and deep concern for humanity's welfare. The messages all emphasized similar themes: nuclear disarmament, spiritual development, environmental protection, and preparation for eventual inclusion in a galactic community. However, the contactee phenomenon also attracted significant skepticism and criticism. Many questioned the psychological profiles of individuals making such extraordinary claims, suggesting that personal trauma, mental illness, or desire for attention might explain their experiences. The lack of independently verifiable evidence for these communications, despite their allegedly ongoing nature, further fueled doubts about their authenticity. Chapter 4. The technology of contact. The methods by which Ashtar Sheran allegedly communicated with Earth contactees varied but generally fell into several categories: direct telepathic contact, radio transmissions, and what contactees described as etheric or dimensional communications. Each method raised different questions about the nature of extraterrestrial technology and the possibility of such communications actually occurring. Telepathic contact was perhaps the most common claim among contactees. Individuals reported receiving detailed messages directly into their consciousness, often accompanied by vivid visual impressions of spacecraft, alien beings, and cosmic scenarios. These telepathic communications typically occurred during meditation, sleep, or periods of altered consciousness, leading skeptics to suggest that they might represent psychological phenomena rather than genuine extraterrestrial contact. However, contactees insisted that these communications possessed qualities that distinguish them from ordinary thoughts or imagination. They described receiving information beyond their personal knowledge, experiencing sensations of contact with distinctly non-human intelligence, and sometimes receiving verifiable predictions about future events. Some contactees reported that their telepathic communications were accompanied by physical phenomena such as unexplained lights, electronic interference, or the presence of unknown objects in the sky. Radio transmissions represented perhaps the most intriguing category of alleged Ashtar communications. Several amateur radio operators claimed to receive transmissions on unusual frequencies that identified themselves as originating from the Ashtar Galactic Command. These transmissions sometimes occurred during periods of unusual atmospheric or solar activity, leading some to suggest that extraterrestrial beings might be utilizing natural phenomena to enhance their communication capabilities. The content of these radio transmissions typically included warnings about nuclear testing, advice about spiritual development, and information about the Ashtar Command's mission and capabilities. Some transmissions included technical details about advanced propulsion systems, energy technologies, and scientific principles that contactees claimed were beyond their personal understanding. However, skeptics pointed out that none of these technical revelations led to verifiable technological breakthroughs or demonstrated knowledge truly beyond human understanding. The most controversial category involved what contactees described as etheric or dimensional communications. These alleged contacts supposedly occurred through higher dimensional channels that bypassed conventional space-time limitations. Contactees claimed that Ashtar Sheran and other beings could communicate across vast interstellar distances instantaneously through these higher dimensional networks. This concept aligned with certain theoretical physics concepts about higher dimensions and quantum entanglement, though it remained far beyond current human technological capabilities. Chapter 5. Government Investigation and Secrecy. As reports of Ashtar Sheran communications proliferated throughout the 1950s and 1960s, various government agencies began taking notice. While official policy maintained skepticism about extraterrestrial contact claims, classified documents later revealed that intelligence agencies were closely monitoring the contactee movement and its potential implications for national security and public order. The Central Intelligence Agency's involvement in UFO research is well documented through declassified materials, though specific references to Ashtar Sheran communications remain largely redacted or classified. However, Available documents indicate that government analysts were concerned about the potential for foreign powers to exploit UFO beliefs for propaganda purposes or psychological warfare operations. The possibility that contactee claims might be part of sophisticated disinformation campaigns designed to confuse or manipulate public opinion was taken seriously by intelligence professionals. Military intelligence agencies also showed interest in the technical details provided in some Ashtar communications. While most officials remained skeptical about the extraterrestrial origin of these messages, some of the described technologies and scientific concepts were considered worth investigating. Reports suggest that certain contactees were quietly approached by government representatives seeking additional information about their alleged communications, though these approaches were typically conducted through intermediaries to maintain official deniability. The Air Force's Project Blue Book investigated several incidents related to contactee claims, though their official reports typically dismiss these accounts as misidentifications, hoaxes, or psychological phenomena. However, some investigators privately acknowledged that certain aspects of the Ashtar phenomenon remained unexplained and potentially significant. The consistency of messages across multiple independent sources, the occasional inclusion of verifiable technical information, and the apparent sincerity of many contactees created puzzles that defied easy explanation. International intelligence cooperation also extended to monitoring the Ashtar phenomenon. British, Canadian, and Australian agencies shared information about contactee activities within their territories, creating a multinational monitoring network that tracked the spread of these communications. The global nature of the Ashtar phenomenon made it a subject of international intelligence interest, particularly as the messages often contained warnings about nuclear weapons and references to secret government activities. Perhaps most intriguingly, some declassified documents suggest that certain government officials took the Ashtar communications more seriously than public statements indicated. References to exotic communication phenomena and anomalous information sources appear in heavily redacted documents, leading some researchers to speculate that official investigations into these communications were more extensive than publicly acknowledged. The continued classification of certain materials related to contactee phenomena decades after the original incidents suggests that some aspects of the government's investigation remain sensitive. Chapter 6, The Southern Television Intrusion. The most public and dramatic manifestation of the Ashtar phenomenon occurred on November 26, 1977, when an unknown entity hijacked television transmissions across southern England during a routine evening news broadcast. For approximately 6 minutes, millions of viewers heard a voice claiming to represent the Ashtar Galactic Command, delivering a message about humanity's future and the need for nuclear disarmament. The intrusion began at 5:12 p.m. during independent television news, when the audio signal was suddenly replaced by an electronically distorted voice speaking with a measured, authoritative tone. The mysterious broadcaster identified himself as Vrillon, a representative of the Ashtar Galactic Command, and proceeded to deliver a message that would become one of the most famous alleged alien communications in history. The content of the message was consistent with decades of previous Ashtar communications. Vrillon warned of the dangers of nuclear weapons, urged humanity to abandon the path of war and embrace peace, and claimed that extraterrestrial beings were monitoring Earth's development. The message included specific warnings about environmental destruction and suggestions that humanity's spiritual development was being carefully observed by advanced civilizations. What made this incident particularly significant was its technical sophistication. The hijacking affected multiple television transmitters across a wide geographical area, requiring considerable technical expertise and equipment. British telecommunications engineers were baffled by the intrusion, unable to explain how unauthorized signals could have overridden their transmission systems without setting off security alarms or leaving detectable traces. Government investigations into the incident were swift and comprehensive. The Independent Broadcasting Authority launched an immediate inquiry, while intelligence agencies examined the possibility of foreign interference or domestic terrorism. Despite extensive investigations, authorities were never able to identify the source of the intrusion or the individuals responsible. The technical analysis revealed that the hijacking required equipment and expertise beyond that possessed by typical hobbyist radio operators, suggesting either sophisticated technical knowledge or access to advanced equipment. The timing of the intrusion was also significant. November 1977 occurred during a period of heightened Cold War tensions, increased UFO activity reports, and growing public concern about nuclear weapons proliferation. The message's emphasis on nuclear disarmament and peaceful development resonated with many viewers who were increasingly worried about global conflicts and the arms race between superpowers. Public reaction to the Southern television intrusion was mixed but intense. Many viewers dismissed the incident as an elaborate hoax or publicity stunt, while others interpreted it as genuine evidence of extraterrestrial contact. The incident generated extensive media coverage and renewed interest in the broader Ashtar phenomenon, introducing these concepts to millions of people who had previously been unaware of contactee claims. Chapter 7: Scientific Scrutiny and Analysis. As the Ashtar Sheran phenomenon gained public attention, it inevitably attracted scientific scrutiny from various disciplines. Researchers in psychology, anthropology, physics, and communications technology began examining the claims, methods, and implications of these alleged extraterrestrial communications. Their findings were mixed, providing neither definitive proof nor complete debunking of the phenomenon. Psychological studies of contactees revealed a complex picture that defied simple categorization. While some individuals making contact claims showed signs of psychological disturbance or attention-seeking behavior, many others displayed no obvious mental health issues and appeared genuinely convinced of their experiences. Dr. Leo Sprinkle, a psychologist who studied numerous contactees, found that many demonstrated above-average intelligence, creativity, and psychological stability, challenging stereotypes about UFO believers. Neurological research suggested that some contactees might be experiencing altered states of consciousness that could facilitate unusual sensory experiences or information processing. Studies using EEG equipment during alleged contact sessions sometimes revealed anomalous brainwave patterns that differed from normal meditation or sleep states. However, these findings remained inconclusive, as similar patterns could potentially be produced through various psychological techniques or medical conditions. Communications technology experts examined the technical claims made in Ashtar messages and the methods allegedly used for extraterrestrial contact. While some contactees demonstrated knowledge of radio frequencies and communication principles beyond their stated education levels, none of the technical information provided in these communications led to verifiable technological breakthroughs. The radio transmission claims were particularly difficult to verify, as the alleged frequencies and signal characteristics often fell outside conventional monitoring capabilities. Linguistic analysis of the Ashtar communications revealed interesting patterns that both supported and contradicted extraterrestrial origin claims. The messages typically used vocabulary and grammatical structures consistent with the contactees' native languages and cultural backgrounds, suggesting human rather than alien origin. However, some communications included unusual phrasings, technical terminology, and conceptual frameworks that seemed beyond the contactees' normal knowledge base. Anthropological studies examined the Ashtar phenomenon within the broader context of human contact with the unknown and supernatural. Researchers noted similarities between modern contactee experiences and historical accounts of divine revelation, shamanic journeys, and mystical encounters. This comparison suggested that the Ashtar communications might represent contemporary manifestations of universal human experiences with transcendent or non-ordinary reality, regardless of their ultimate origin. Statistical analysis of the communications revealed patterns that both intrigued and puzzled researchers. The consistency of messages across multiple independent contactees suggested either genuine extraterrestrial contact or sophisticated coordination among human participants. However, the lack of specific verifiable predictions or technical breakthroughs that could definitively prove extraterrestrial knowledge remained a significant weakness in the overall case for authentic alien communication. See Chapter 8, Global Expansion of the Phenomenon. By the 1970s and 1980s, reports of Ashtar Sheran communications had spread far beyond their original American and British origins, appearing in countries across Europe, South America, Asia, and Australia. This global expansion of the phenomenon raised new questions about its nature, origin, and significance, while also providing opportunities for cross-cultural comparison and analysis. In Germany, contactees reported receiving Ashtar communications in their native language, often with specific references to European political situations and environmental concerns. These German contacts frequently emphasized themes related to post-war healing, environmental protection, and the spiritual transformation of European civilization. The messages often included warnings about industrial pollution and nuclear power development, reflecting contemporary European environmental movements. South American contactees, particularly in Brazil and Peru, reported Ashtar communications that incorporated indigenous spiritual concepts and references to ancient pre-Columbian civilizations. These messages often suggested connections between modern extraterrestrial visitors and the advanced beings described in indigenous mythologies. Brazilian contactees frequently reported communications that emphasized harmony with nature and the spiritual significance of the Amazon rainforest for planetary consciousness. In Asia, particularly in Japan, Ashtar communications took on characteristics influenced by Buddhist and other Eastern spiritual traditions. Japanese contactees reported messages emphasizing meditation, compassion, and the interconnectedness of all life forms. These communications often included warnings about technological development without corresponding spiritual advancement, themes that resonated with traditional Eastern philosophical concerns about balance and harmony. Australian contactees reported Ashtar communications that often referenced the unique spiritual significance of the Australian continent and its indigenous peoples. These messages frequently included information about ancient earth energies, sacred sites, and the role of Aboriginal wisdom in humanity's spiritual development. The communications often emphasized environmental protection and respect for indigenous knowledge systems. Despite these cultural variations, certain core elements remained consistent across all global reports of Ashtar communications. The warnings about nuclear weapons, emphasis on spiritual development, concern for environmental protection, and descriptions of a galactic federation monitoring Earth's progress appeared in contactee accounts worldwide. This consistency either suggested genuine extraterrestrial communication or remarkably coordinated human activity spanning multiple continents and cultures. The global spread of the Ashtar phenomenon also attracted international government attention. Intelligence agencies from various countries began sharing information about contactee activities within their territories, creating an informal international monitoring network. Some governments expressed concern about the potential for the Ashtar communications to influence public opinion on sensitive political issues, particularly nuclear weapons policy and environmental regulation. Academic researchers noted that the global expansion of Ashtar communications coincided with increased international communication and cultural exchange. The development of international media, jet travel, and early computer networks made it possible for contactee communities to share information and experiences across vast distances. This technological connectivity raised questions about whether the consistency of global Ashtar communications reflected genuine extraterrestrial contact or simply improved human coordination and communication. Chapter 9, the nuclear warning pattern. One of the most consistent and compelling aspects of the Ashtar Sheran communications was their persistent focus on nuclear weapons and the dangers they pose to human civilization. From the earliest contactee reports in the 1950s through contemporary claims, these alleged extraterrestrial messages have consistently warned that nuclear weapons development represents an existential threat not only to Earth but to the broader cosmic community. The nuclear warnings typically contained several key elements that remained remarkably consistent across different contactees and time periods. First, the communications claimed that nuclear explosions created disruptions in space-time that affected other dimensions and star systems. According to these messages, Earth's nuclear testing was interfering with interstellar communication networks and potentially threatening inhabited worlds in other solar systems. Second, the Ashtar communications frequently warned that nuclear weapons attracted negative extraterrestrial attention and could invite invasion or intervention by hostile alien civilizations. These messages suggested that Earth's nuclear capabilities marked humanity as a potential threat to galactic peace and stability, necessitating increased monitoring and possible intervention by benevolent forces like the Ashtar Galactic Command. Third, many communications included specific warnings about particular nuclear facilities, testing programs, or planned weapons deployments. Some contactees reported receiving detailed information about classified nuclear programs that was later verified through official disclosures or investigative journalism. These accurate predictions or revelations added credibility to the nuclear warning aspects of the Ashtar phenomenon. The timing of nuclear-related Ashtar communications often coincided with significant developments in nuclear weapons programs or international nuclear crises. During the Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962, multiple contactees reported urgent messages from Ashtar Sheran, warning of the catastrophic consequences of nuclear conflict and urging peaceful resolution of the crisis. Similar communications occurred during other periods of nuclear tension, including the 1983 Able Archer crisis and various nuclear testing escalations. Some of the most detailed nuclear warnings came through contactees with technical backgrounds who claimed to receive specific information about nuclear physics, weapons design, and the cosmic consequences of nuclear explosions. These communications often included scientific explanations that were beyond the contactees' stated knowledge levels, though they rarely provided information that couldn't have been obtained through classified sources or advanced scientific education. Government agencies paid particular attention to the nuclear aspects of Ashtar communications, both because of security concerns and because these warnings sometimes included accurate information about classified programs. Intelligence analysts were puzzled by contactees who possessed knowledge of secret nuclear facilities or testing schedules without apparent access to classified information. Some investigations focused on determining whether these contactees had intelligence connections or access to leaked information. The nuclear warning pattern also raised profound questions about the ethics and implications of extraterrestrial intervention in human affairs. If advanced alien civilizations were indeed monitoring Earth's nuclear development, What right did they have to intervene in human decisions about weapons technology? The Ashtar communications suggested a paternalistic relationship where more advanced beings guided or controlled less developed civilizations, raising uncomfortable questions about human sovereignty and self-determination. Chapter 10, Technological Revelations and Predictions. Throughout the decades of reported Ashtar Sheran communications, contactees have claimed to receive detailed information about advanced technologies that allegedly surpass current human capabilities. These technological revelations have ranged from propulsion systems and energy generation methods to communication technologies and consciousness enhancement techniques. The accuracy and implications of these claims have been subjects of intense scrutiny and debate. Many Ashtar communications included descriptions of spacecraft propulsion systems based on electromagnetic field manipulation, gravity control, and what contactees described as dimensional shifting technologies. These descriptions often included technical details about crystal-based power systems, rotating magnetic fields, and methods for neutralizing gravitational effects. While these concepts aligned with theoretical physics principles, none led to practical technological breakthroughs that could verify their extraterrestrial origin. Energy technology represented another major focus of alleged Ashtar technological communications. Contactees reported receiving information about free energy systems that could draw unlimited power from environmental sources, advanced solar collection methods, and what were described as zero-point energy extraction techniques. These communications often included warnings that premature release of such technologies could destabilize human civilization unless accompanied by appropriate spiritual and social development. Communications technology revelations included descriptions of instantaneous interstellar communication systems, consciousness-based information transfer, and methods for transmitting data through what contactees called etheric networks. Some of these descriptions preceded the development of similar concepts in human technology, including fiber optic communications, satellite networks, and early computer networking principles. Medical and consciousness technologies featured prominently in many Ashtar communications. Contactees reported receiving information about healing techniques using light frequencies, sound vibrations, and focused mental energy. These communications often describe technologies for enhancing human psychic abilities, extending lifespans, and facilitating direct consciousness-to-consciousness communication. While these concepts influenced alternative healing movements and consciousness research, they remained largely unverified by conventional scientific standards. Perhaps most intriguingly, some Ashtar communications included specific predictions about future technological developments that later proved accurate. These included early descriptions of personal computers, satellite communication systems, genetic engineering techniques, and alternative energy technologies. However, skeptics noted that many of these predictions were general enough to encompass multiple possible developments, and that failed predictions were often forgotten while successful ones were emphasized. The technological aspects of Ashtar communications also raised questions about the motivations and methods of alleged extraterrestrial contact. Why would advanced beings share some technological information while withholding other potentially crucial knowledge? The communications typically explained this selectivity as necessary to prevent premature technological development that could prove destructive to human civilization. This explanation aligned with the overall paternalistic tone of the Ashtar messages, but also provided a convenient excuse for the lack of definitively game-changing technological revelations. Government and corporate interest in the technological aspects of Ashtar communications was significant but largely covert. While official policy dismissed these claims as fantasy or fraud, Declassified documents suggest that various agencies and research organizations quietly investigated the technological concepts described in contactee reports. Some research programs appear to have been influenced by ideas first presented in alleged extraterrestrial communications, though establishing direct connections remain difficult due to classification and secrecy. Chapter 11, The Believers and Their Organizations. As reports of Ashtar Sheran communications spread, numerous organizations formed around these alleged extraterrestrial contacts, creating structured communities of believers who attempted to live according to the principles and guidance provided in the messages. These groups varied widely in their organization, beliefs, and practices, but they shared common elements that reflected the core themes of the Ashtar communications. The Ethereal Society, founded by George King in 1955, became one of the most prominent and enduring organizations built around extraterrestrial contact claims. Based on King's alleged communications with various space beings, including Ashtar Sheran, the society developed elaborate rituals, healing practices, and spiritual technologies designed to facilitate contact with higher intelligences and contribute to humanity's spiritual advancement. The organization established centers worldwide and continues to operate today, maintaining detailed records of alleged extraterrestrial communications spanning decades. The Guardian Action International organization emerged from the work of contactee Tuella and focused specifically on preparing for what was described as a mass evacuation of Earth by the Ashtar Galactic Command in the event of global catastrophe. This group developed detailed protocols for contact with extraterrestrial rescue ships, maintained networks of prepared individuals worldwide, and published extensive materials describing the organization and mission of the alleged Galactic Federation. Smaller local groups formed around individual contactees who claimed ongoing communication with Ashtar Sheran and related beings. These groups typically met regularly to receive new communications, discuss their implications, and plan activities designed to assist in humanity's spiritual development and preparation for open extraterrestrial contact. Many of these groups practiced meditation, studied alternative healing techniques, and worked to spread awareness of environmental and peace issues. The organizational structures of Ashtar focus groups often reflected the hierarchical descriptions provided in the alleged communications. Just as the messages described a structured galactic federation with clear chains of command and specialized functions, earthly organizations typically developed similar structures with designated leaders, specific roles for different members, and formal protocols for receiving and disseminating information from extraterrestrial sources. Common practices among Ashtar groups included regular meditation sessions designed to facilitate contact with extraterrestrial intelligence, study groups focused on analyzing and interpreting received communications, and healing circles that applied techniques allegedly taught by space beings. Many groups also engaged in environmental activism, peace advocacy, and spiritual education efforts that reflected the values emphasized in the Ashtar communications. The financial aspects of Ashtar organizations varied considerably, with some operating as non-profit educational groups, while others became commercial enterprises, selling books, recordings, and services related to extraterrestrial contact. This commercialization sometimes led to conflicts within the contactee community, as some members felt that profiting from alleged extraterrestrial communications violated the spiritual principles emphasized in the messages. Academic researchers studying these organizations found complex social dynamics that reflected both genuine spiritual seeking and various psychological and social needs. Many members reported finding community, purpose, and hope through their involvement with Ashtar groups, particularly during periods of personal crisis or social upheaval. However, researchers also noted tendencies toward authoritarianism, financial exploitation, and psychological dependency that sometimes characterized these communities. The longevity and continued growth of Ashtar-focused organizations, despite decades of skepticism and criticism, suggested that these groups fulfilled important social and psychological functions for their members. Whether or not the alleged extraterrestrial communications were genuine, the communities built around them provided frameworks for exploring spirituality, community service, and alternative approaches to understanding humanity's place in the cosmos. Chapter 12: Skeptical Investigations and Debunking Attempts. As the Ashtar Sheran phenomenon gained prominence, it attracted intense scrutiny from skeptical researchers, investigative journalists, and debunking organizations determined to expose what they considered elaborate fraud or mass delusion. These investigations employed various methodologies and revealed important information about the nature, origins, and perpetuation of the alleged extraterrestrial communications. James Randi, the famous magician and skeptical investigator, conducted detailed examinations of several prominent Ashtar contactees and their claims. His investigations focused on the methods used to produce alleged communications, the psychological profiles of contactees, and the possibility of deliberate fraud or unconscious self-deception. Randi's work revealed that many contactee demonstrations could be replicated through conventional means, including ventriloquism, electronic manipulation, and psychological suggestion techniques. The Committee for Skeptical Inquiry commissioned several studies of the Ashtar phenomenon that examined the scientific plausibility of the claims, the consistency of communications across different sources, and the accuracy of predictions made in the alleged messages. These studies found significant problems with the scientific content of many communications, including descriptions of technologies that violated known physical laws and astronomical information that was demonstrably incorrect. Academic researchers in psychology and sociology conducted extensive studies of contactee communities and the social dynamics surrounding belief in extraterrestrial communication. These studies revealed complex processes of group reinforcement, selective memory, and rationalization that could explain the persistence of beliefs despite contradictory evidence. Researchers found that contactee groups often developed elaborate explanations for failed predictions or inconsistencies that allowed core beliefs to remain intact. Technical investigations of alleged radio transmissions and electronic phenomena associated with Ashtar communications found that most could be explained through conventional means. Signal analysis revealed that many supposed extraterrestrial transmissions used equipment and techniques available to amateur radio operators, while electronic interference attributed to alien contact often coincided with known sources of electromagnetic disturbance. Investigative journalists traced the origins and spread of Ashtar communications, revealing networks of connection and influence among contactees that challenged claims of independent contact. They found evidence of shared sources, copied material, and coordinated activities that suggested human rather than extraterrestrial organization. Some investigations revealed financial motivations and promotional activities that undermined claims of purely spiritual or altruistic motivations. However, skeptical investigations also encountered puzzling elements that defied easy explanation. Some contactees demonstrated knowledge of classified information or technical concepts beyond their apparent education levels. Certain predictions proved accurate in unexpected ways, and some physical phenomena associated with alleged contacts remained unexplained despite thorough investigation. The Southern television intrusion of 1977 proved particularly challenging for skeptical investigators. Despite extensive technical analysis and investigation, the source and methods of the broadcast hijacking were never definitively established. The technical sophistication required for the intrusion exceeded that typically available to hoaxers, while the lack of commercial or political motivation puzzled investigators who expected to find conventional explanations for such an elaborate operation. Psychological studies of contactees revealed a more complex picture than simple fraud or mental illness. While some individuals showed signs of psychological disturbance or attention-seeking behavior, many demonstrated normal psychological profiles and appeared genuinely convinced of their experiences. This finding complicated simple debunking approaches and suggested that the phenomenon might involve factors beyond conscious fraud or obvious mental pathology. The response of contactee communities to skeptical investigations revealed sophisticated defense mechanisms that protected core beliefs while adapting to new challenges. Failed predictions were reinterpreted as tests of faith or misunderstood messages, while debunking efforts were often dismissed as government disinformation or the work of spiritually unenlightened skeptics. These defensive responses demonstrated the resilience of belief systems built around extraordinary claims and the difficulty of definitively resolving questions about anomalous experiences. Chapter 13. Government Responses and Official Policies. Throughout the decades of reported Ashtar Sheran communications, government responses have varied from official dismissal and ridicule to covert investigation and concern. Declassified documents and insider testimonies have revealed a complex pattern of official interest that contradicts public statements of disinterest or disbelief in extraterrestrial contact claims. The United States Air Force's public position on Ashtar communications was consistently dismissive, categorizing such reports as misidentifications, hoaxes, or psychological phenomena. Project Blue Book investigators typically classified contactee reports as explained cases, requiring no further investigation. However, internal documents suggested that some military officials were privately concerned about the potential security implications of these communications and their effects on public opinion. Central Intelligence Agency involvement in monitoring the Ashtar phenomenon was more extensive than publicly acknowledged. Declassified documents reveal that CIA analysts tracked contactee activities, monitored the spread of alleged extraterrestrial communications, and assessed their potential impact on national security and foreign policy. The agency was particularly concerned about the possibility that hostile foreign powers might exploit UFO beliefs for propaganda purposes or psychological warfare operations. International cooperation in monitoring Ashtar-related activities extended across NATO allies and other friendly nations. British intelligence services shared information about contactee activities with American counterparts, while Canadian and Australian agencies contributed to a multinational monitoring network. This cooperation reflected concerns that the global nature of the Ashtar phenomenon could have implications for international security and stability. Some government officials privately expressed interest in the technological concepts described in Ashtar communications, even while publicly dismissing the extraterrestrial origin claims. Defense contractors and research organizations quietly investigated some of the advanced propulsion and energy technologies described in contactee reports. Though these investigations were typically classified and their results remain largely unknown, the nuclear warning aspects of Ashtar communications received particular government attention due to their potential accuracy and security implications. Intelligence agencies investigated cases where contactees demonstrated knowledge of classified nuclear programs or made accurate predictions about nuclear developments. These investigations sometimes revealed security breaches or intelligence leaks, though the sources of contactee information often remained mysterious. Congressional interest in UFO phenomena occasionally extended to contactee claims, though most official hearings focused on military sightings rather than alleged communications. Some congressmen privately expressed concern about the government's handling of the UFO issue and the potential implications of widespread public belief in extraterrestrial contact. However, official policy continued to minimize the significance of such claims. The Freedom of Information Act revelations, beginning in the 1970s, disclosed extensive government files on UFO-related activities, including some references to contactee monitoring and investigation. While many documents remained heavily redacted, the released materials confirmed that government interest in these phenomena was more extensive and sustained than previously acknowledged. International incidents like the Southern Television intrusion prompted diplomatic discussions about the security implications of alleged extraterrestrial communications. Government agencies expressed concern about the potential for such incidents to create public panic, undermine confidence in official institutions, or provide cover for hostile intelligence operations. The official policy of dismissal and debunking served multiple purposes beyond simple skepticism. It helped maintain public calm, protected classified programs from unwanted attention, and avoided legitimizing claims that might encourage more reports or copycat activities. However, this policy also created tensions between public statements and private investigations, contributing to conspiracy theories about government cover-ups and hidden knowledge. Into Chapter 14, Modern Manifestations and Digital Age Evolution. The advent of the Internet and digital communication technologies has fundamentally transformed how Ashtar Sheran communications are reported, shared, and evaluated. The digital age has democratized access to information about these alleged extraterrestrial contacts, while simultaneously making it more difficult to verify claims and separate authentic reports from manufactured content. Online communities dedicated to Ashtar communications have proliferated across various platforms, creating global networks of believers who share experiences, interpret messages, and coordinate activities. These digital communities have enabled real-time sharing of alleged communications, allowing for immediate global distribution of new claims and rapid community response to developments. However, this connectivity has also facilitated the spread of misinformation and the amplification of unverified claims. The emergence of social media platforms has provided new channels for alleged Ashtar communications, with individuals claiming to receive messages through digital means or interpreting technological glitches as extraterrestrial contact attempts. Some modern contactees claim that advanced beings have adapted their communication methods to utilize internet technologies, suggesting that traditional radio and telepathic contacts have evolved to include digital transmission methods. Video conferencing and live streaming technologies have enabled contactees to share alleged real-time communications with global audiences, creating new forms of public demonstration and community participation. These live events sometimes attract thousands of viewers and generate significant discussion and analysis within online communities. However, the ease of digital manipulation has also increased skepticism about the authenticity of such demonstrations. Artificial intelligence and machine learning technologies have been applied to analyze patterns in reported Ashtar communications, searching for linguistic fingerprints, predictive accuracy, and consistency across sources. These analyses have revealed interesting patterns, but have not resolved fundamental questions about the origin and authenticity of the communications. Some researchers have suggested that AI technologies might themselves be capable of generating convincing simulations of extraterrestrial contact. The digital preservation of decades of Ashtar communications has created vast archives that allow for comprehensive analysis of trends, themes, and evolution in the phenomenon. Researchers can now examine how these alleged communications have changed over time, how they reflect contemporary concerns and technologies, and how they correlate with global events and technological developments. Smartphone technologies and ubiquitous digital recording capabilities have changed expectations about evidence for extraterrestrial contact. Modern contactees are often expected to provide digital documentation of their experiences, though the ease of digital manipulation has simultaneously decreased the evidential value of such recordings. This technological paradox has complicated efforts to evaluate modern claims of alien contact. Chapter 15, Psychological and Sociological Analysis. The persistence and evolution of the Ashtar Sheran phenomenon over more than 7 decades provides a unique opportunity for examining the psychological and sociological factors that sustain belief in extraordinary claims. Researchers from various disciplines have studied contactee communities and individuals to understand the complex interplay of personal, social, and cultural factors that contribute to these experiences. Psychological studies of Ashtar contactees have revealed a diverse population that defies simple categorization. While some individuals show signs of psychological disturbance or personality disorders that might predispose them to fantasy-prone thinking, many others demonstrate normal psychological profiles and function effectively in their daily lives. This diversity suggests that the contactee experience cannot be explained solely through individual psychological pathology. Cognitive psychology research has identified several mental processes that might contribute to contactee experiences. These include pattern recognition tendencies that can interpret random events as meaningful communications, memory reconstruction processes that can enhance and modify recalled experiences, and suggestibility factors that can be influenced by group expectations and cultural narratives. However, these processes alone do not fully explain the complexity and consistency of reported Ashtar communications. Social psychology studies have examined how group dynamics within contactee communities reinforce and shape individual experiences. Researchers have found that social validation, shared interpretation frameworks, and collective meaning-making processes play crucial roles in sustaining belief in extraterrestrial contact. These social factors can create powerful feedback loops that strengthen individual convictions and resistance to contradictory evidence. The role of media and popular culture in shaping expectations about extraterrestrial contact has been extensively studied. Researchers have found that reported Ashtar communications often reflect themes, imagery, and concepts from science fiction literature, films, and television shows. This cultural contamination makes it difficult to separate potentially genuine anomalous experiences from culturally conditioned expectations and fantasies. Chapter 16. The Question of Alien Authority. Perhaps the most profound and troubling question raised by the Ashtar Sheran phenomenon concerns the implications of extraterrestrial authority over human affairs. If advanced alien civilizations are indeed monitoring and attempting to guide Earth's development, what rights do they possess to intervene in human decisions, and what obligations might humanity have to follow their directives? The Ashtar communications consistently present a paternalistic relationship model, where more advanced beings guide and protect less developed civilizations. This cosmic hierarchy supposedly justifies extraterrestrial intervention in human affairs, particularly regarding nuclear weapons, environmental destruction, and spiritual development. However, this model raises fundamental questions about human sovereignty, self-determination, and the right to make mistakes as part of evolutionary development. The nuclear warning aspects of Ashtar communications illustrate this dilemma clearly. If extraterrestrial beings possess the technology and moral authority to prevent human nuclear warfare, should they intervene to stop such conflicts? The communications suggest that Earth's nuclear capabilities affect other star systems and dimensions. potentially justifying intervention on grounds of cosmic self-defense. Religious and philosophical traditions offer different perspectives on the question of alien authority. Some interpretations suggest that advanced beings might serve as agents of divine will, justifying their guidance and intervention. Others argue that spiritual development requires freedom of choice, including the freedom to make destructive decisions, making any form of external control ultimately counterproductive to genuine evolution. The Ashtar communications often present themselves as requests or suggestions rather than commands, maintaining the appearance of respecting human free will while providing strong guidance about preferred courses of action. This approach preserves theoretical human autonomy while creating psychological pressure to conform to extraterrestrial preferences. Audrey, Chapter 17, Environmental and Spiritual Messages. Throughout the decades of reported Ashtar Sheran communications, environmental protection and spiritual development have emerged as central themes that often overshadow the more sensational aspects of alleged alien contact. These messages have resonated with growing environmental and spiritual movements, raising questions about whether the communications reflect genuine extraterrestrial concern or simply mirror contemporary human anxieties and aspirations. The environmental warnings in Ashtar communications began appearing prominently in the 1960s and 1970s, coinciding with the emergence of modern environmental consciousness. These messages typically warned of ecological catastrophe resulting from pollution, deforestation, species extinction, and climate disruption. Contactees reported receiving detailed information about environmental tipping points, interconnected ecological systems, and the cosmic significance of planetary environmental health. According to alleged Ashtar communications, Earth's environmental condition affects not only local life forms, but the broader cosmic ecology of which Earth is allegedly a part. These messages suggested that planetary consciousness and environmental health are interconnected aspects of cosmic evolution, making environmental protection a matter of galactic rather than merely terrestrial concern. Spiritual development themes in Ashtar communications emphasize the evolution of human consciousness as a prerequisite for planetary advancement and eventual inclusion in galactic civilization. These messages typically describe current humanity as existing in a transitional phase between material and spiritual consciousness, with the outcome of this transition determining Earth's future relationship with cosmic community. Many Ashtar communications include specific practices and techniques allegedly designed to accelerate spiritual development and facilitate contact with higher consciousness. These practices typically involve meditation, prayer, service to others, and cultivation of love and compassion. The emphasis on personal transformation and ethical living has attracted individuals seeking practical spiritual guidance regardless of their beliefs about the extraterrestrial origin of these teachings. Chapter 18, Technology, Consciousness, and Control. The intersection of technology, consciousness, and social control represents perhaps the most complex and troubling aspect of the Ashtar Sheran phenomenon. The alleged communications describe advanced technologies based on consciousness manipulation, raising profound questions about the nature of mind, reality, and the potential for technological control over human thought and behavior. Ashtar communications frequently describe technologies that operate through direct interface with consciousness rather than mechanical manipulation of physical matter. These descriptions include devices that can influence thoughts and emotions, alter perception of reality, and facilitate direct mind-to-mind communication. While such technologies currently exist only in science fiction and theoretical research, the detailed descriptions provided by contactees have sometimes preceded similar concepts in mainstream scientific speculation. The consciousness-based technologies allegedly employed by the Ashtar Galactic Command include methods for mass communication that bypass conventional media channels and speak directly to individual minds. The Southern television intrusion of 1977 was interpreted by believers as a demonstration of such technology, showing the ability to override human communication systems and deliver messages directly to millions of people simultaneously. These technological descriptions raise disturbing questions about mental autonomy and the possibility of external control over human consciousness. If advanced beings possess technologies that can influence thoughts and emotions, how would humans detect such influence, and what protections might exist against unwanted mental manipulation? Government interest in consciousness research and potential mind control technologies has been documented through various declassified programs, including MK-Ultra and related projects. The possibility that reported Ashtar communications might represent testing or application of advanced human psychological technologies cannot be dismissed without thorough investigation. Chapter 19, The Future of Contact Claims. As we advance deeper into the 21st century, the nature and implications of extraterrestrial contact claims like the Ashtar Sheran phenomenon continue to evolve in response to technological advancement, social change, and growing scientific understanding of the cosmos. The future trajectory of such claims will likely be shaped by developments in space exploration, artificial intelligence, consciousness research, and global communication technologies. The increasing likelihood of discovering microbial or simple extraterrestrial life through space exploration missions and astronomical observation will likely influence public attitudes toward more dramatic contact claims. As the possibility of life beyond Earth becomes scientifically established, claims about advanced extraterrestrial civilizations may gain greater credibility or face higher standards of evidence. Technological developments in artificial intelligence and machine learning may transform how alleged extraterrestrial communications are analyzed, verified, and potentially generated. AI systems capable of producing convincing simulations of alien contact could make it increasingly difficult to distinguish authentic anomalous phenomena from sophisticated hoaxes. The advancement of consciousness research through neuroscience, quantum physics, and related fields may provide new frameworks for understanding the psychological and potentially physical mechanisms underlying contact experiences. If consciousness is found to operate through non-local or quantum mechanical principles, the theoretical basis for telepathic communication might become more scientifically plausible. Virtual and augmented reality technologies may create new categories of contact experience that blur the boundaries between physical, psychological, and technological phenomena. As immersive digital environments become increasingly sophisticated, the criteria for distinguishing between real and virtual contact experiences may become more complex. Chapter 20. Scientific and philosophical implications. The Ashtar Sheran phenomenon, whether ultimately proven authentic or thoroughly debunked, raises profound scientific and philosophical questions that extend far beyond the specific claims about extraterrestrial contact. These implications touch on fundamental issues in consciousness research, physics, communication theory, and the philosophy of knowledge. From a consciousness research perspective, the consistency and complexity of reported Ashtar communications present interesting challenges to conventional understanding of human psychological capabilities. The ability of individuals with diverse backgrounds to produce coherent, detailed communications claiming extraterrestrial origin suggests either sophisticated coordination among humans or the existence of psychological phenomena not fully understood by current scientific models. Physics implications of the Ashtar communications include detailed descriptions of advanced propulsion systems, energy technologies, and communication methods that, while currently beyond human capability, do not necessarily violate known physical laws. These descriptions have occasionally anticipated later scientific developments or presented concepts that align with theoretical physics speculation. The communication methods allegedly employed by Ashtar Sheran raise questions about the nature of information transfer and the possibility of non-local communication channels. While telepathic communication remains scientifically unverified, research in quantum entanglement and non-local correlations suggests that information transfer might occur through mechanisms not yet fully understood. Philosophical implications include fundamental questions about the nature of knowledge, truth, and evidence. The Ashtar phenomenon demonstrates how belief systems can persist despite lack of conventional scientific verification, raising questions about the adequacy of current epistemological frameworks for evaluating anomalous claims. Dradis Meistritus Chapter 21, Global Impact and Cultural Influence. The Ashtar Sheran phenomenon has exerted significant influence on global culture, spiritual movements, and popular understanding of extraterrestrial life over more than 7 decades. This influence extends far beyond the community of direct believers, affecting science fiction, religious thought, environmental activism, and public discourse about humanity's place in the cosmos. In the realm of popular culture, Ashtar-related concepts have influenced countless science fiction works, films, television shows, and literary productions. The image of benevolent alien protectors monitoring Earth's development and offering guidance for spiritual evolution has become a recurring theme in science fiction. The New Age spiritual movement has incorporated numerous concepts originally associated with Ashtar communications, including channeling practices, galactic federations, consciousness evolution, and the integration of spirituality with advanced technology. Many New Age teachings about ascension, dimensional shifts, and contact with higher beings can be traced to ideas first popularized through Ashtar-related communications. Environmental movements have sometimes adopted the cosmic perspective on ecological issues that characterizes Ashtar communications. The idea that Earth's environmental health affects broader cosmic systems and that planetary consciousness evolution is connected to ecological healing has influenced various environmental organizations and activists. The phenomenon has influenced public expectations about extraterrestrial contact, creating popular assumptions about how such contact might occur, what extraterrestrial beings might be like, and what their intentions toward humanity might be. These cultural expectations could potentially influence how genuine contact, if it occurs, is interpreted and received. Chapter 22, The Modern Dilemma. Today, more than 70 years after the first reported Ashtar Sheran communications, humanity faces a complex dilemma regarding how to approach claims of extraterrestrial contact. The phenomenon persists in new forms, while traditional institutions struggle to develop appropriate responses that balance open-minded inquiry with critical evaluation and social responsibility. The current state of Ashtar communications reflects both continuity and evolution. Traditional contactees continue to report regular communications with the alleged Galactic Command, while new individuals claim to receive similar messages through digital media, meditation experiences, and various forms of channeling. The consistency of core themes, environmental concern, spiritual development, nuclear warnings, remains remarkable across different sources and time periods. Social media and internet technologies have democratized both the reporting and criticism of contact claims, creating unprecedented opportunities for global coordination among believers while also facilitating rapid debunking of fraudulent accounts. This technological evolution has made the phenomenon more visible, while simultaneously making it more difficult to evaluate authenticity. Official government positions on UFO phenomena have shifted significantly in recent years, with military and intelligence agencies acknowledging the reality of unexplained aerial phenomena, while maintaining distinctions between unknown objects and extraterrestrial visitation. This partial disclosure has renewed interest in historical contactee accounts like the Ashtar communications. The scientific community remains largely skeptical of contactee claims, while showing increased interest in the search for extraterrestrial intelligence through conventional astronomical methods. The potential discovery of extraterrestrial life, even in microbial form, could significantly impact how claims about advanced alien civilizations are evaluated. The modern dilemma ultimately centers on how humanity should approach claims that could be either the most important development in human history or elaborate delusions requiring compassionate understanding, but not literal belief. The stakes of making correct determinations about such claims are enormous, while the available evidence remains ambiguous and contested. Brili du Bestreuil, Chapter 23, Conclusion, the Eternal Question. After examining 7 decades of Ashtar Sheran communications from multiple perspectives, historical, scientific, psychological, sociological, and philosophical, we are left with an enduring mystery that resists simple resolution. The phenomenon continues to evolve, raising fundamental questions about consciousness, reality, and humanity's place in the cosmos that remain as relevant today as they were when the first contactees reported receiving messages from the alleged galactic commander. The evidence for authentic extraterrestrial communication remains frustratingly ambiguous. While the consistency of messages across multiple independent sources, the occasional accuracy of predictions, and the sophisticated technical requirements of incidents like the Southern Television intrusion suggest possibilities beyond conventional explanation. The lack of independently verifiable physical evidence and the psychological and social factors that could explain the phenomenon through purely human mechanisms prevent definitive conclusions. The scientific implications extend far beyond the specific question of Ashtar Sheran's reality. The phenomenon has contributed to research in consciousness studies, anomalous cognition, communication theory, and the psychology of belief. Whether the experiences represent genuine contact with non-human intelligence or complex manifestations of human consciousness, they provide valuable data for understanding the outer reaches of human perception and the relationship between mind and reality. The social and cultural impact of the Ashtar phenomenon demonstrates how ideas about extraterrestrial contact can influence human civilization in profound ways, regardless of their literal truth. The emphasis on environmental protection, spiritual development, and peaceful cooperation that characterizes these communications has contributed to various movements and institutions working toward these goals. The question of extraterrestrial authority raised by the Ashtar communications forces consideration of humanity's readiness for contact with advanced civilizations and the implications of accepting guidance from beings claiming superior knowledge and moral authority. These questions will become increasingly relevant as human space exploration expands and the possibility of encountering extraterrestrial intelligence grows. The technological aspects of the alleged communications anticipate developments in consciousness research, quantum communication, and human-machine interfaces that may eventually provide new frameworks for understanding or creating the kinds of phenomena reported by contactees. The relationship between consciousness and technology described in Ashtar communications may prove prophetic as human civilization advances toward more sophisticated interfaces between mind and machine. The persistence of the phenomenon across multiple generations of contactees and believers suggests that it addresses fundamental human needs for meaning, transcendence, and cosmic connection that remain powerful regardless of scientific and technological advancement. The Ashtar communications provide frameworks for understanding human purpose and potential that resonate with individuals seeking alternatives to purely materialistic worldviews. The global nature of the phenomenon and its appearance across diverse cultural contexts suggest either genuine anomalous communication that transcends conventional space-time limitations or remarkable coordination among human participants that itself would represent an interesting form of collective behavior. Either explanation has significant implications for understanding human nature and capabilities. The ultimate question posed by the Ashtar Sheran phenomenon, whether humanity would accept orders from aliens, remains hypothetical but increasingly relevant as we advance into an era where contact with extraterrestrial intelligence becomes more plausible. The decades of claimed Ashtar communications have provided a kind of cultural rehearsal for this possibility, allowing human societies to explore their responses to claims of benevolent alien guidance. Whether Ashtar Sheran represents a real extraterrestrial commander seeking to guide human development, a complex psychological and social phenomenon reflecting deep human needs and fears, or some combination of genuine anomaly and human interpretation, the communications have contributed to important conversations about humanity's future, our relationship with the environment, and our potential for spiritual and technological advancement. The continuing evolution of the phenomenon in response to technological and social change suggests that these questions will remain relevant as human civilization develops new capabilities for space exploration, consciousness research, and communication. The Ashtar Sheran phenomenon serves as both a fascinating historical curiosity and a continuing challenge to our understanding of reality, consciousness, and the possibility of life beyond Earth. In the end, the phenomenon leaves us with more questions than answers, but these are precisely the kinds of questions that drive human inquiry and expansion of knowledge. Whether we are alone in the universe or part of a vast cosmic community, whether consciousness operates within purely physical limitations or possesses capacities we do not yet understand, and whether human civilization can develop the wisdom to use advanced technologies responsibly, these remain among the most important questions facing our species. The Ashtar Sheran phenomenon, in all its complexity and ambiguity, continues to point toward these fundamental questions while reminding us that the search for truth requires both rigorous skepticism and open-minded exploration of possibilities that challenge our current understanding. The eternal question of whether we would take orders from aliens remains unanswered, but the decades of alleged communications have prepared us to consider what our response might be if such a choice ever becomes real.